Hey there guys, and welcome to the first section, creating the workspace. Now in this section, obviously when you're working with Monday.com, you want to build the board and use the board. So that's what this first section is all about. In this section, I'm going to be taking you through the template library of Monday.com, and I'm also going to be showing you the common columns that you're going to be using in your Monday.com board, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to add those items to your board. It's really simple, and let's just jump into it. Right, now first off, what you'll see is that you'll see that I've created a workspace called test environment. If you want to add a workspace, you can easily click on add new workspace, add your workspace, and you can also customize it like this. Okay. One thing I also want to mention is that typically on enterprise, you have the ability to create private workspaces, but on pro and everything before, you can only have open workspaces. Okay. So before we jump into this exercise, what I really want you to do is I want you to get a pen and a paper, and I want you to write down what you're going to build. Okay. Are you going to build a budget tracking tool? Are you going to build a tool to actually manage your leads? Are you going to build something to manage a project? Really is up to you. You can really build anything in Monday.com. So for this course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a extremely simple build, and I'm going to create a task list. And what I want that thing to do is I want to be able to assign a person to it. I want to see the status of it. I want to have an email that automatically is sent through to the individual responsible for the task list the day before. And I also want a button that I can click that basically tells me, please give me an update. And lastly, I also want to see the time tracker and exactly how much it's cost me to do that. Okay, so that's typically what I want to build for this video, and I'm going to take you through that. Right, but let us jump in and build the board. So let's go through the template library, because obviously let's see if we can find something that's already been built without having to start from scratch. So this is the template center of Monday.com, and you can see there's a lot of categories from design to operations to venture capital to construction, really a lot. Okay. So you can go through all of these and you can find out what will work for you. Right. So for an example, I'm not going to use a template in this video. I'm going to start from scratch, but I do want to show you how you can upload one. So let's go social media planner. Here you can see, you can get an idea of what you're looking at. So you can see the views that they're using, the form, and you can click on use template. What will happen is Monday.com will have built a series of these boards where they've pretty much created that relates to the social media planner. Okay, so let's see what it comes up with. That's finishing. Okay, so we can see that we got our social media document and a social media planner, and you can see it created all of the stuff for you. Okay, so very, very easy to create a template, and then you can obviously go in and start editing it and making it yours. Okay, I'm going to delete this because I don't want to use this, and I'm going to start from scratch. Right, so building a board in Monday.com is super easy. It's very simple. Now I'm going to talk about the common column types that you're going to use in Monday.com. There are a few. I think there's over 30, but typically you will use maybe just a dozen at least. Okay, so typically there's already 3. We've got the person, the status, and the date. Okay, you will always pretty much use one of those. The status you can use as a label or a priority column. Your person is where you can assign the individual, and then the date you can easily turn into a deadline. And just while I'm here, I'm going to show you a couple of things about the status and the date column. The date column you can set as a deadline over here, and then you can choose which status you want to say is the status of the task, and then the person. So you can see Darren for the 11th of August is working on it, but because it's saying this, it means it's overdue. Okay, now how does it know it's done? Right, I mean, I could add a label over here called done, and it would still say, it still says it's overdue. That's because one of the things that a lot of people don't know about the status column is that you can customize the status column and you can choose which colors indicate that an item is completed. So if I say blue and green, you'll now see that it's there. Okay, so that's just a couple of things for you to understand about the date and status column. Right, let's go through a couple of the others that you're going to use. Text. You're definitely going to use text. This can be used for any free text items that you're going to be putting in. You're going to use the text column. Okay. You are going to definitely use the numbers column. So for instance, if you, as our example earlier, we're talking about budgets, you're going to be putting in your budgets here. So for instance, let's say 1,500, and you can also go and customize it. So for instance, you can talk about rand, right? And you can customize exactly what is going to be the suffix or the unit. And here you can also talk about the average. So when you average in your table, you can then say, what is the average? What is the max? What is the min? And all of that. Okay. So that is your numbers. The next thing that you're going to be using is you will also be using the timeline column. So typically with date, you can get a single date. With timeline, what's really cool is you can obviously have a start date and an end date. One thing I'll also want to mention about the timeline is that, again, you can set it as a deadline. You can also connect with the duration. So for instance, you connect it with the number column, and this will, you can connect it with numbers. And if you do, what will happen, let's go over here. Let's just double check and make certain that worked. Disconnect. Connect with duration. We're going to go with numbers. And now we can say 31 days. Okay. So now if we change this to the 31st, you'll now say it sees 61 days. Okay, so that's one thing about the timeline. And also what can happen is that you can also choose, you can set as a milestone on certain of these. So you can say this is, you can set it as a milestone item. So there. Okay, I need to just redo the way that I do this timeline. Okay, so that's pretty much how the duration works. Right, and then lastly, one of the things about the timeline column is you can also set a single date and set it as a milestone, and typically you'd use this in the project management side of things. Okay, right, but let's just go back, and I'm just going to say not as a milestone and just go back to there. Right, okay, so that's your numbers. The next thing that you're also going to use quite often is you are going to use the connect boards and the mirror column. So typically how it used to work is in Excel, you had VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP, and you could connect to different sheets, and you can actually connect to different sheets in different Excel documents. How Monday.com does that is they use this connect boards feature. So you can see I can add in a different board. In fact, I can add in two, and I can connect the boards. Okay, now what I can do is I can select the item that I want to look at. So for instance, I can say, let's go to website rebuild, and I can see, now I can see all of the information with regards to that. Okay, and how a mirror column works. A mirror column basically is, say I wanted to, if I wanted to connect to item one and I wanted to see the status, I'll connect it to the connect boards, and I want to look at, that's the task management side. Let's look over here. Here I can see the project status. So this tells me the project status in website rebuild. So you can see the project status is this, and you can see that it pulls through here. And that's pretty much how the connect boards and the mirror column works. And what's really cool is because you connect multiple boards, I can choose a different task type over here. So let's say I come over here, task management, item one. I can now see the task type is ad hoc. So it's looking at different statuses and so on. Okay, so that's how your connect boards and your mirror column work. The next common one that you're pretty much going to use quite a lot is you're going to use the item ID. I love the item ID because this creates a unique 9-digit figure across all of your boards. You'll never have the same item ID in any of your boards in your Monday.com account system. Okay. The next one that you're going to be using is you're going to be using probably phone, and you will also be using email. Okay, this is for contact information. So with the phone, you can easily just put in a number and you should be good, and then also with the email. Another column that you're going to be using a lot is the file column. Here you can add, you can connect to your Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, and SharePoint, and so on. So that's really cool. And then another thing that you can also use is you can use, is that you're going to be using, let's see, you're going to be using the button. This is really nice. This is if you want an action. Typically use buttons for actions, so that's also good. And then also what you're going to use is you are definitely going to use the formula column and the time tracking column. All right, so let's just add those in. Now, you can only use formula and time tracking in pro plans and upwards. I don't believe that they are in the standard. Okay. All right, and those are the common columns that you're going to be using. Now, I want you obviously saw how easy it was to actually build this board, relatively easy. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new group, show you how to add a group. And there you go. So now you can add items. Okay, you can add items like this. And you can also add sub-items like this. And you'll see we've also got the sub-item columns over here. And again, it's very simple for you to add columns to the sub-items by just going through this. You can even click on copy parent columns if you really want to, and I'll move all of those into the sub-item side. And that is really how easy it is to build a Monday.com board.